Alrighty, welcome to this video. It's a big one. It's a case study. I'm going to show you how we generate 5 to 15 sales qualified inbound leads for an MSP. So our in-house process. And the reason I'm going to show you this is because I did it for a webinar and then I realized that this was a lot of work and I thought I should also do it for YouTube. So here we are. And the whole point of this channel was to teach you guys and to help you with your lead generation. So let's get into it. This is our in-house process. And we can skip over this because that's not relevant for this YouTube video. What is relevant is my name and background for those who don't know. So my name is Lodewijk Veldhuizen. I'm from the Netherlands. Call me Louis. Most people do. I'm a business traction consultant originally, and worked as an MSP, realized that the MSP space was in dire need of good lead generation, and then built MSP Launchpad. We now employ a couple of dozen people, and we're really good at what we do. But this video is not about plugging. This video is about raw value. So I'm not going to try to get your information. I'm not going to try to sell you something. I'm going to tell you how lead generation for MSPs is done. So I hope you're ready. Let's get into it. Okay, so most MSPs I speak with, they can only get clients from networking and referrals. This is not ideal because people, they don't walk down the streets trying to find an MSP. People go online to search for an MSP that they want to work with. So if the MSP cannot convert cold online traffic, then it becomes really hard to grow. Most MSPs also struggle with competition and have no real way to differentiate themselves to stand out. That means a race to the bottom on pricing are seen as a commodity. And there's also marketing clutter. So the MSP space is just in a really bad state when it comes to marketing. People don't know what to do and they just try everything like podcasts and YouTube videos and Facebook and TikTok and Instagram. And it's all over, you know? So this video will show you how to drive MSP leads. If you do what's in this video, you're going to get 5 to 15 leads per month, and you don't need to do any of the other stuff. So you will learn how to drive MSP growth. And 5 to 15 may sound like a large number because we're talking about inbound leads coming to you. So conversion rates are high, but it's really not. If you're in a large enough market, there are plenty of businesses switching MSPs each month. And you just need to make sure that they come to you. So what kind of leads does that then mean? That means that we're talking about real local businesses calling you or filling in the forms on your website. And that means if you're bad at sales, you're going to convert 20%. But if you're good at sales, you could convert 70%. Right. So if you're getting 5 to 15 leads a month, as some of our customers do, proven results on our website, by the way, don't go there now, but after this video, we have case studies and testimonials where you can see customers that onboard 5 clients simultaneously, all contracts, all through this exact funnel. Right. So this funnel is the thing that is responsible for getting 5 to 15 leads as soon as it goes live. And people literally onboarding handfuls of clients at the same time. So the way that this is done is by just taking out everything that you don't need. Marketing is a huge field. You don't need TikTok. You don't need Instagram. The thing that makes MSP campaigns tick is what you're going to learn in this video. Nice. I was almost spilled the beans already. No, you can take a look at this funnel. You can see that basically what we do is that we split it up in 3 segments. So the first thing we do is the pre-campaign opportunity test. You can see it in the orange, which is basically figuring out that our method is going to be effective for that MSP. And we'll show you how to do that because I don't want you to dedicate your life to marketing if your MSP is not even properly positioned for it and it wouldn't work anyway. Then the communication strategy. This is who are we going to sell our services to and how do we do that? And then the last step is the actual inbound funnel itself. And that is just the exposure on the thing that you're selling and that you're trying to attract. Okay, let's get into it. Because this is the optimal minimum. And this is what most MSPs have. So if this is the optimal minimum, the leanest thing that you can do to drive lots of MSP leads, pretty much limitless, depending on how high you throw your ad spend, etc., then this clearly is not enough if this is the minimum. But most MSPs have this. They just have a website and they have, call me on my website and they have a form on their website and that's it. and they then pray that people find them, which of course they don't. And that's why no one gets any leads, right? So minimum, this is what most people have. It's a big problem. Now, I don't want you to waste your time. So this method is only for MSPs that are in a business dense local market. So you can see my mouse here in the little map, hopefully, because I know the mouse is kind of small. If your business is somewhere inside the green in a nice business dense area, then this will work for you because there are plenty of businesses around you that you can attract, but you need to be willing to work with them. So if you look at point 1, be in a business dense market. Point 2, industry agnostic. You need to be willing to work with the industries inside your market. Point 3, you need to be also capable of working with those sizes of businesses. So if you're trying to attract businesses over 200, there's not going to be enough of those in any given market. You need to be realistic about the size of business that you're trying to attract. And then slightly technical, you also need to have a Google Business Profile on a real address. If you're missing just one of these things, this model won't work for you. So if you're somewhere, your MSP is here in the red area, you're too far away from your market, and this method will not work for you. The yellows, maybe, with enough ad spend, but here it gets really tough. If you are not industry agnostic, this also will not work for you, and so on. Okay, I hope you're ready. Let's get into it. This is very zero fluff. So everything in here is not just a little bit necessary, but critical if you want to generate MSP lead flow. Otherwise, I would have cut it out already. I like efficiency in my business. This is the minimum. You ready? Okay. So here are the chapters we're going to be discussing. So the first one is estimating the odds of success and determining what we need to achieve as we are building the campaign, right? So we make a little map. The second thing is you start utilizing that. So you want to start working to become the obvious choice in your market. Then once you are that, you need to make sure people find you. Then you need to make sure that when they find you, they convert. And once that's done, you want to build a little moat. You want to maintain your lead flow. Let's get into it. Chapter 1. Here in the blues, so what's going to be happening, which I think is pretty fun, as we are going through this presentation, we will be unlocking different parts of this funnel, discussing everything as we go. That also gives some nice structure and clarity. So here we have the local market opportunity assessment, the pre-campaign opportunity test, and we have 3 factors that we take into consideration together, which then gives the map of the metrics to beat and so on. So here's the first thing that we take into account when we are talking to an MSP that we think we may want to work with. And it's just how many searches are in their market for MSP services. This is very easy to find out. You can just go to Google Ads. They have a keyword planner. In there, you put all the keywords that indicate MSP searches, right? So managed IT services near me, managed IT services, MSP near me, business IT support, etc. Combinations with the locations and so on. And you run that and you want to find at least 400 searches at a minimum. And ideally, also not too many competitors at the same time, although that is less important because you can just do better than those competitors. So for example, if there are 1,000 searches with 40 MSPs, that sounds like only 25 searches per MSP, but it's actually not correct, right? Because out of those 40 MSPs, maybe 35 are just so unattractive, no one even considers them. Okay, so we take a look and we see how much search volume is there. Then we also want to assess the position of the MSP inside the market itself. So you can see my mouse here, hopefully on the green pin. Okay, the mouse is kind of small. But when you start a campaign, your range, where people can find you is not super huge straight away. So that means that if you're closer to local business, you're going to get more traction faster. Simple stuff, right? So if you're in the smack middle with all this business around you, that's great. Also, kind of taken into account then how many other MSPs are around you, because that's still relevant as well. But if you are further away from your market, let's say that you're in the yellows, then you might want to pay Google Ads, because if you're just visible here, but there's no business here, then you want to become visible here so you can still attract business. Do be warned, though, that the further away you are, the more attractive your MSP needs to be. Clearly, right? If you are a business in the city center and there's an MSP far away, then they better be great. Have a great offer, great brand, great people. Otherwise, I'm just going to work with an MSP close by. So if you're in a green, you don't necessarily here somewhere, you wouldn't necessarily have to start with ads, although you could maybe if you want to immediately have lots of visibility. But if you're in the yellows, you almost certainly need it. And if you're in the red, you're probably in a too unattractive location and you'd want to kind of like reposition your MSP to another market. So now we know, 1, how much search volume there is. 2, do we need to run ads, and kind of like where is the competition situated? And then number 3 is, let's really map the competition, because when people purchase anything, they're going to compare options. That's also what your prospect's going to be doing, right? Your prospect wants to find an MSP. They're going to find 50 of them. So let's figure out who those 50 MSPs are, right? Because if we know who they are, then we can do better. And that is really the game of marketing these days, is not ranking first, second, or third, because there's 50 MSPs there and some have horrible SEO, but you can still find them. So it's more about how dominant can you be, how high up can you be, but especially how well can you communicate? What is your target market fit like? Like what is your offer, etc. So we run some manual searches just to see. Let's say that I pretend to be a business trying to work with an MSP that is a little bit more premium and focused on cybersecurity. If I'm a business like that, I'm going to be inside this market and I'm going to pretend to be a business like that. And I'm going to see which MSPs I end up with. And those are then kind of like the real competition, right? Probably going through Google Maps, seeing the review count, seeing the pictures. And I would just pretend to be a normal person trying to find an MSP a certain way, and I see who I end up with. But I also run some automations to get all the MSPs in the market. And I run some automations to get all the reviews on all those MSPs in the market, because that allows me to do an analysis with ChatGPT to figure out if there are any big problems in the market, or if the businesses really value something, either responsiveness or service is what it usually is. But it allows me to uncover patterns, what the MSPs are bad at or good at, and what the market wants. And once we have these 3 factors together, then we have a map, right? What's the volume? Do we also need to invest in ads? And what is the competition like? And this MSP, does it have the potential to do better than the competitors, make a better offer, have better metrics, and so on? Does it have ad spend if it's necessary? And is there enough volume in the market? And if so, and we want to move ahead, and this is also, by the way, what you should be doing for your own MSP. You need to do this analysis so you know who your competitors are who are currently getting all the leads. But that will then allow you to do the math and be like, okay, we're going to do this, yes or no. And if it is yes, then, set a timeline and write down what you need to do. So you want to keep the main competitors handy, because you're going to be comparing yourself against them constantly, because you need to do way better. This is what your prospects are doing. So you need to think like a prospect, and you need to, I'm not going to say you need a lot, sorry about that. But you need to think like a prospect and just make sure that you are so much more attractive than the other guys, because that's how you get lead flow. Then make sure that you have all the numbers on how many reviews you need and the quality of the reviews that you should get and the quality of your offer. And maybe you need unique selling points and a big promise. Maybe you need to work on your brand. Maybe your website's a mess compared to theirs, and so on. Does that make sense? So, and maybe you need advertising budget. So we make a little map based on the competitors and the local market, and that becomes the execution plan. You set a go live date 1 or 2 months out, and off you go. And then you need to start working on the second chapter, which we have now unlocked in blue, the communication strategy. So here we first decide on the ideal client. Then we start working on the value proposition. This is your offer and how you position yourself. And then you're going to dial in your appearance, your look, your branding elements, because your ideal client needs to look at you and be like, hey, that MSP looks like someone I want to work with. So you need to take care of that. Why is that so important? Okay, let's think about this for a bit. When anyone wants to buy something, they don't just go on the internet anymore and find the thing that ranks highest and purchase that. People do deeper research, and they're probably going to find tons and tons and tons and tons of options and only consider a bare few, right? And the ones that they can consider, they can only consider the ones that provide enough information to be considerable in a weird way. What most MSPs do, they just become part of this void where they're all talking about the same stuff, like, hey, we're an MSP, proactive maintenance, cybersecurity, help desk, and so on, right? That's what most MSPs do. And their websites all look very similar. and they're all very boring, and they don't talk about any of their SLAs. They don't have any pictures. There's nothing that makes you even know what the size of the MSP is or anything like that. It's a big mess. It's a bland void of MSPs, and a prospect is not going to send all of these MSPs a message. Never. So if your website is like that, and you're like, oh shoot, this is my problem, that's part of the reason you're not getting any leads, because a prospect is not going to send, like random messages into this void. A prospect is going to go to the group of MSPs that at least has some messaging. So for example, you're always going to find a few of these in any given market, but you might find the MSP that's nice and large, that has a fleet of cars, that's kind of cool. Or you're going to have the MSP that is considerably smaller, has a small team, but we're all tier 3 and you get a direct line to all of us. Or you get the MSP that's compliance focused, or that is co-managed IT focused, or that price matches, or that has a fat guarantee that takes the risk away from signing up with them. So MSPs can do things to be considered. But if you want to get those 5 to 15 leads every single month, then what you really want to do is you want to think about a category of businesses inside your market, your local market, where there's lots of those businesses of that size with a specific problem. And then you communicate to that size of business that you are good at fixing those 1 or 2 problems. And that's how you get a home run. And that is really the basis of everything. So if you want to succeed with your MSP's growth in general, you will have noticed that being part of the void and trying to communicate everything to everyone, it just doesn't work, does it? And everyone else that is a little bit more specific gets those leads. So that is what you should be doing. So you want to write down a profile of your ideal clients and then base the rest of your campaign off of that. So specifically, don't target 10 to 150 endpoints. It's too much. Like 150 is deep into co-managed IT, ERPs, and all that stuff. And 10 users is none of that, right? Maybe they need some compliance or something. So they're completely different levels of communication, and you cannot write something that appeals to all of them. The MSPs that try end up in the bland void. Simple. So go for a smaller range, and I suggest 10 to 40, 20 to 75, or 40 to 100, and then think about their pain points, but don't think about the pain points that they might have if they didn't have an MSP, because everyone has an MSP. Think about the pain points they might have with their MSP. This is a major hack. So it's not like, oh, you need proactive maintenance and stuff like that. Like, oh, come on. Like right now, 2025, computers are not that bad anymore. It's more about if your company is a specific size, then what is that MSP doing poorly? Maybe they're overcharging, maybe not responsive enough. Maybe they're not strategic enough. Maybe they don't integrate well enough. So you want to think about what that MSP is doing wrong for a company that size. And this is also where that review analysis can really help. And then you want to think about, where is my pricing in relationship to the market, and how should I price myself in order to be attractive? Because being cheap is not always the most attractive. Sometimes being expensive is much more attractive, right? So you want to think about who you want to target at which price point. And again, make sure that when you write this avatar, take a look at your market and make sure that there's plenty of those businesses inside your market, because otherwise you're not going to grow fast enough. And you also have to make sure that those businesses want to work with you. Targeting 80 endpoints plus or 80 users plus when you're a 2-man MSP is probably not going to work, right? So be a little bit smart about this. And when you have your ideal clients, then you want to write down what their perfect MSP looks like. So in terms of service elements, are they cybersecurity focused? Are they responsiveness focused? Like, what are the main things that an MSP should be good at to get that kind of ideal client really excited? And then what kind of photos would that client want to see, the prospect? And how many reviews should they see relative to everyone else? Would they want to see any kind of qualifications or certifications? What kind of SLAs, guarantees, pricing, production quality, founder charisma, etc.? So do an exercise here of just like the ideal, most perfect MSP on the market for a client like that, if that makes sense, right? And that's not you, but now you know which areas you want to specialize in and what you want to start working towards, okay? Then right now we're already, how far are we into recording this? 20 minutes. And now we finished the analysis. So you can see that this is a a chunky amount of the work that needs to be done, that I'm willing to dedicate so much time to this. But this is the work that's why all the marketing campaigns for MSPs fail. It's because they don't do this, right? You need to do this. It doesn't matter what kind of campaign you run. This always needs to happen. Okay, so now you know all the competition in the market. You know which MSPs are getting the majority of the leads. So you literally know which MSPs are scooping everything up. Now you know who to beat and who to do better than. You know what kind of metrics they have, how many reviews they have, and so on. And you kind of know like what you need to do in order to get the exposure that they're currently getting, right? If they get 60 reviews and everyone else has 20, then maybe you want to have 80. Ooh, right? That would be nice. So just write down those targets and then start working towards them. And now that you have that list as well, you can know how to get the exposure, but you also know if you would get that exposure, how would you use it? What kind of businesses would you attract? And what should you kind of look like or do to actually get them to convert with you? So we have an analysis, right? Have it, start working towards it. So we'll start talking about that now. One of the biggest things I have found that drives the most lead flow, right, which is necessary if you want to get 5 to 15 leads in month 1 after launch and maintain that figure or grow it, is that you need to grab attention in a way that builds a lot of trust, a lot of trust. And a big promise is essentially the biggest unique selling point that you have that's trust creating in the MSP space. So here are some examples. If you don't like our service within the first 90 days, we'll give you your money back plus $10,000. Like, that's crazy. And you can imagine that if a business reads that, they're like, this is incredible. These guys are so confident. Let's reach out to them. Or best value guaranteed. If you can find the same service cheaper elsewhere, we'll undercut them. That doesn't mean you have to be cheapest. You can have a best value guaranteed and charge $300 an endpoint, right? But you just need to, at that price point, need to have the highest level of service and SLAs and technicals and so on. Another big promise could be, we're going to take a silo of engineers for you, and let's say 3, and we're going to train all of them on the exact ins and outs of your business. They're going to know everything, and you're going to get a direct line to all of them, right? These are all things that are just crazy that other MSPs are not willing to do. But if a prospect reads that, they're going to go like, oh my, right? This is awesome. I want to reach out to these guys. So if your market does not have stuff like this and you do stuff like this, then you'll see that this would get your market excited, right? This is just the first of a few steps that we will do in order to get 5 to 15 leads a month. But this is the first one. And you want to make sure that you can find this everywhere. And then an irresistible offer. So a big promise is your one big thing, but an irresistible offer is a series of statements and kind of like aspects of your offer that you list underneath each other that get people also excited. So you want to do 5 to 8 things, and you want to just write on your website the things that your ideal client would find really attractive. So if their main problem is responsiveness with their existing MSPs, and that's why they're switching, you could talk about how responsive you are, or how you always pick up the phone, or what kind of certifications you have, and so on, right? So there's a list of things here. You can brag about your CSAT, your compliance things, but basically you want to have a list of things so that when people read it on your website, every single thing they read, they're like, damn, and just get them really excited. Your irresistible offer, if you write that on a napkin and you give it to another business owner and you're not allowed to speak, would they be buying your offer straight away, right? Or if they look at it, but they don't buy it straight away, will they lose sleep every night? Like, oh man, I should have bought that. So you want to have an offer that is so good that it really bugs people. And they're like, this is like, I need to have this. This is so good. It should even bug you, that to the extent that you would almost start another business so your other business can buy that offer from the first business. Does that make sense? That's how good your offer needs to be. Because if it's not like that, then you're not going to get 5 to 15 sales qualified inbound leads on a monthly basis, right? And you do want to have that, because if you make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sales a month or more, you're going to be very thankful you made an offer like that. So, and a quick way to get in that direction is by tweaking financials. So things that people really like is things that take risk away. So for example, the onboarding guarantee where if you don't like it, you get money back. Or you could even do a discount if you want. It's not absolutely necessary, of course. Other kinds of guarantees on your SLAs, especially when you're working with larger companies, can be really well received. And these are things that take a second. You just need to be creative and come up with them, and they make a lot of impact. You don't even need to actually improve your responsiveness to make a good impact if you're just willing to work with your financials a little. So you have your big promise and you have your offer, and you've thought a little bit about your guarantees and how you're going to take risk away. So you kind of like have the technicals of your service delivery, but in order to deliver that package, people need to find you appealing and want to work with you. And this is brand, but brand is a big term that is a little bit, there's a lot in the air about what brand is. Let's put it like that. And fortunately, you don't have to overthink this too much. The key thing is to show yourself, your team, photos, and come across as inviting and competent. So you can just coming across as competent is not good enough. If you're going to be some high testosterone, self-glorifying, cybersecurity masculine overlord, like everything dark, serious face, cybersecurity, no one wants to work with you. Everyone hates that. Right? So come across as inviting, and you can be competent and inviting at the same time. So then you want to think a little bit about, okay, my ideal clients, if they're a smaller company, would they really want to see like some super hardcore corporate website? Or they want to see a website that's a little bit more like small business feel? So think about that a little bit and just build your website and your brand, your assets online in such a way that you think it would appeal to your target market. Also, when it comes to your offer and your brand, make sure that your photos are okay, that kind of match that, right? If you are shooting to attract large businesses, your production quality should be high. Larger businesses maybe doesn't have to be so high because then they just think it's going to be expensive. But also your reviews, make sure that the people in your reviews talk about the things you want them to talk about, like responsiveness and so on. Make sure that all these things I've talked about so far, you want to make sure that if you want to get 5 to 15 leads immediately upon go live, just make sure these things are done. Now you have the best offer, you have lots of risk reversals, you look awesome, you have more reviews than other people. That's how you get the leads that before the other people were getting. Now they're just going to start funneling to you. And also, if something is annoying to do for you, that's a good thing because other MSPs will also find it annoying. And if they don't do it, but you do it, now you have a major advantage. Okay? So make sure prospects find you at the right time. Now we're going to get into the actual funnel construction. So we have organic, local, paid ads, and remarketing ads. And for organic, we're going to use your Google Business Profile and ChatGPT to attract leads. And we're going to use 4 different kinds of paid ads: map pack, search, call, and remarketing. And this is going to be the basis of the traffic that you'll be generating towards your MSP. Why do we do this and not anything else? Well, when was the last time you bought anything off of a cold call or of a LinkedIn booklet or of some nurturing email sequence from a local service business? Like, just mentioning these things, it already sounds kind of silly. I'm sure that you haven't bought anything like that more than once in the last 5 years. But there's lots of competition there, and lots of businesses are still trying to do that. But this is old school, it's extinct. The way that it works now is just through people doing their own research, trying to figure out whether or not your MSP is right for them. And there's competition there too, but at least you can see the competition and do better, right? So shopping has changed. And make sure that you provide enough information and look attractive enough and have a good enough offer. Local SEO, also known as Google Maps SEO. If you have a local service business like an MSP, then this generates 60 to 80% of all your lead flow. That is a lot. That means that if you don't have that, you would almost have 0 lead flow. It's basically the difference between 1 and 5. But the reality is if you don't have this, it's just incredibly hard to grow an MSP, the way the search engines and everything works right now. Google, ChatGPT, and all the other platforms, they base recommendations off of your Google business profile. This has the best value for money. The quality of the lead flow is extreme. There are local businesses close to you who find your funnel, see your pictures, read your reviews, and are like, okay, this is my MSP. Of course, these are going to convert best. And if you do this really well, this will often by itself generate 3 to 5 inbound leads on a monthly basis. Just make sure you have the best funnel and that you're really attractive to your ideal client. Make sure you have super high review count, as high as you can get it, ideally higher than everyone else, and photos. And if you look, maybe you can't get higher than everyone else in 2 months, but maybe you can get pretty freaking high, right? You want to be high in this number. It does a lot for your lead flow, because the higher the number, the more people click. And after that click, the whole funnel starts working, but you need that first click. So that being said, if you have like a high ranking inside Google Maps, so here on the right, you can see how high, for example, someone ranks in different locations in a city on Google Maps. This is nice, but if you rank high in Google Maps, but you have no good reviews, no pictures, no nothing, you're still not going to get any conversions. Just think about when you go for dinner. You're going to see a list of restaurants, and the ones that are high up, that in no way means that you're going to go for dinner there. With MSPs, it's the same. It's more about, does the funnel itself inside the list, does that convince you? That's what you need to achieve. ChatGPT is amazing and is starting to generate a lot of leads. Make sure your Google business profile is okay, because it scrapes that a lot. It reads your reviews and the count and so on. But you also need a really good website architecture for this, because ChatGPT scrapes your website and then uses the information inside to determine whether or not you're a good fit for the prospect who's asking. And what that means is that if you have like some 5-pager MSP website, there's not nearly enough infrastructure in there to really allow them to give like a really good recommendation, right? But if you have industry pages, service pages, location pages, and so on, it's just a lot more robust. And what we're finding is that this is funny. Is that, I mean, I think it's funny, but I don't know, I'm some marketer idiot. In our do-it-yourself program, we have MSPs that, maybe didn't want to do a photo shoot yet. So their Google business profile has lots of reviews, because it's not so hard to get reviews if you know how to do it. But then they didn't do the photo shoot yet. And then they're not going to get lots of leads through their Google business profile, because you click it because of the review count, and then you look at it and you're like, well, there's nothing here. Like I'm not sure if I can trust these guys. I'm gonna go to another MSP that's willing to show their faces. But if you have a high review count and a great website architecture, then ChatGPT will already start suggesting you, because it doesn't want to spend the compute to actually see the images. So ChatGPT, review count, what's in the reviews, and website architecture, huge. And this field is now developing, but ChatGPT is great. Paid ads is even better. I love this. We like to spend $4,000 to $5,000 a month on this. You can do less, but 4 to 5 is really nice, because you feel like, yes, lead flow. You get like a nice handful or two. The thing that's important here is that you have to make sure that if a person would open 10 MSP websites, you are always the best one. Right? You want to start doing this when you're already the most attractive in the market, because then every time you pay for a click, it's actually worth it. If your funnel or your website is actually really boring, doesn't have a good offer, doesn't have target market fit, then you pay for that click. But then if they open 9 more websites, and they're going to go for one or the other 9 ones, and you lose all your money. So you need to make sure you do that when you're ready and not before. And a great way to test this is just, are you already getting leads? So we like using Mapback ads. This is my favorite one. It comes with a little bit more spam, but the cost per sales qualified lead is still the lowest. You can get really high quality leads very, very cheaply. Search ads, more expensive, very clean, requires landing pages from time to time. Not even always. Something like these days, you can just, if you do your homepage well, you can even put them at your homepage these days, but that's a different thing. Call ads, if your funnel's okay, you can just sometimes provoke calls directly. And remarketing banner ads. I mean, you and I have had an ad blocker for the last 15 years, but some people might not. And then your little banners will keep following them around, which is a very cool indeed. So paid ads, absolutely love them. If you can afford them and your funnel's ready, then you should definitely go for it. maximizing the percentage that converts. So we're starting to get a little bit close towards the end. We're now going to talk about the conversion mechanism, which is going to be your website, and the ways for you to receive leads. Something about MSP lead generation is that, this is not super exciting to people. They just want to get the show on the road, make a good choice, and make it fast. So in the MSP market, you will get the best bang for your buck if you focus on direct response marketing. In other words, you're trying to get a result straight away. And the result is not a purchase. It's just them calling you or filling in the form on your website. So when you do MSP marketing, don't think in terms of like long nurturing sequences and stuff like that. Because look, guys, like your prospect is not going to sign up to some nurturing sequence and then get converted half a year later. They're going to go on Google Maps. They're annoyed. They're going to find the ones that they think are the best options and they're going to reach out. So optimize for that. Everything else, like the brochure making for your website called lead magnets and other things like that, they are a waste of your focus until you're in like 5 or 6 cities. Until that time, focus on the fundamentals that we talked about in this video. Okay. One of those fundamentals is that you have to focus on the things that go to your website rather than your website. The main thing that kills MSPs is that no one finds their website. I mean, the websites are all bad, but no one's even reaching the website. And the way that you grow your MSP a lot is by focusing on things like your Google Maps and your ads and those kind of things. They have to be absolutely perfect. If your Google Maps funnel is better than anyone else in your city, even if your website is terrible, you might still get lead flow, but you could have the best website in your city, but the lousy Google Maps or lousy ads, and then no one would even reach your website and you get 0 leads. Does that make sense? So everyone's always saying like, buy a $20,000 website. It's like, it's not really the most important thing anymore. So the pathways to your website, that means if you're a gold or silver partner with some vendor, make sure that what you write there is good too. Other maps platforms, just make sure your pathways are okay. That's the highest leverage thing you can do. Your website, the homepage should now be a landing page. So this has changed, and make it 5 or 6 sections, form in the bottom. On the top, you want to have a team photo because you also want to have a call us now button. But people are not going to call you if they can't see the team because you have the team there. So people are like, oh, I would like to call this team. This team look great, right? That's how it works. Your title to your website should just be business IT support, managed IT services. You could put something behind it 24/7 with smiles, fast, great value, whatever. Okay. So, but the point that you want to have those keywords in there is 1, it helps with your local SEO, which is really important because this is how you're going to get customers. But 2, also it eliminates confusion, right? Your prospect doesn't want to see growth through technology or other cool stuff that we do in order to come across as intelligent. We're not coming across as intelligent. We're coming across as self-glorifying idiots. We just want to be as transparent and clear as possible. So there's no confusion, and they go there and they see like, oh, managed IT services. Oh, wow, that team looks great. And then right underneath, you have second section, you have the owner talking about the fit. So, hey, this is what we're going to do for you. This is our deal client. This is how we can help, and make a nice story out of that. The third section, your irresistible offer, those 5 to 8 points. And your big promise should pretty much be in every section. That means that under your title, your big promise, and maybe your big promise already becomes part of your title on your homepage. Okay. Photos. Let's take a look. At the time, we're still okay. So focus on photos. Photos are so important. They're not optional anymore. After you finish this video and you're like, okay, this Louis guy seems like, he's done this a lot. And you can go to our website to verify our results, by the way. And his seems like a really good, this all makes sense to me kind of method. Then if you would follow me to the letter, then you would start with also figuring out who your real competition is and the companies who are probably getting the leads right now, right? So if you would do that and you would really mimic what it's like to be a human going through that process, you'll probably find that you're always going to gravitate towards companies that have pictures of the team. Because without that, you just don't really trust them. It's kind of like going to a restaurant and not having pictures of the food. Or going to a website of some sort of garage and there's no picture of the garage or the people. You're just going to go to someone else who is willing to do that, basically. And if you realize that is the case, then maybe you should also do this for yourself, because this could be the reason you're not getting leads. Most MSP websites, they just have server rooms and skyscrapers and stock people on there, and it's a mess, right? You need to show your team, because that's what people want to see, so they can establish whether or not there's a correct fit. They want to assess the size of your business, to already have a subconscious understanding of pricing and what kind of reliability there is, what kind of relationship they can expect, and so on. So you need to get the photos, because if they have the correct expectation and they reach out, conversion rates go way up. Does that make sense? Good. Production quality on the pictures can be high or low. So if you have really high production quality, right, and you pay a photographer, professional photographer, and he comes by and your photos are super amazing, perfect lighting and everything, then a prospect's going to come and he's going to assume, wow, these guys got everything really dialed in. I bet you they're expensive, right? But if your pictures are maybe not so dialed in, then a prospect might come and be like, hey, no, it's pretty good. Maybe actually these guys, they could be a little bit more affordable. You see how all that subconscious stuff works? So be a little bit conscious about what kind of imagery you're going to install, where as well. For example, on your Google business profile, if you want to sell more VoIP services, show a lot of VoIP systems. If you want to do more migrations and infrastructure, show your team working on the infrastructure. If you want to sell more MSP services, show your help desk at work, like 3 computers next to each other, 3 people, have the headset there, and have some metrics on the screen. Does that make sense? And do more of these pictures. And that will help people when they're looking at your funnel to assess, oh, this is the kind of company I want to work with. And think about the energy of the team, grooming standards, and branded cars and stuff like that. Whatever you can put that they want to see, and remove all the AI garbage if you can, or the stock images if you can. And if you do this, but your other MSPs in your market are not doing this, then this is an opportunity, right? Because people, a photo shoot's not that bad. Like, it takes a morning, So organize it and get it done, because it makes a big difference. And then hope that the other guy doesn't do it, and it will help you a lot. Make it easy to call you. This is something MSPs don't do. So your phone number on your website, make it nice and big, high contrast, easy to call you. Make sure that your team photo is there, right? Reduces the anxiety. Make sure that when they call you, you don't force them through long menus. That will kill half the sales that you're getting, if not more. It is crazy how many sales you will lose due to a long menu. So your sales number should go direct. Then if you want people to take actions on your website, make sure your buttons look like buttons and not like some sort of blurred out or something faded into the background, because then no one sees and clicks. And I mentioned this before, but page is not too long. Okay. We talked about a lot, but you can see that if you do your assessment, so you're sure that you're in the right market and you know exactly how to beat your competition. Here on the left, let me see if I can get my mouse. You can see it here on the top with pre-campaign opportunity tests. I'm going down now, right? Because my mouse is a little bit small. If you can log exactly what you need to do to beat the competitors, and if you know who the main competitors are, then you can build an ideal client and convince them with just a way better offer and a much more likable appearance. And then you can make sure that people find you in the places that they're looking all the time. Right? And that is how you get 5 to 15 leads and throw it on a website that converts well. It's really, if you look at it, you probably subconsciously knew a lot of this already. But if you see it step by step, then it kind of makes sense. And you will notice, guys, I haven't mentioned social media once. Process of elimination, right? It's better to do the thing that works well, really well, than to add on fluff and dilute focus. The last chapter. Now we want to launch the inbound funnel, and you want to, okay, so you can maybe, some things were done before, but by the date that you have decided, everything should be done. And once everything is done, then you want to see if it's going to work. And it's pretty easy because at the beginning of this whole adventure, what you did is you mimicked what it's like to be a business owner, targeting a 30 and you're a 30 user business owner, and you were targeting a premium cybersecurity MSP that you wanted to work with, right? So go through an exercise like that again, and then do that in different locations of your city and see if you find yourself consistently and you always come out on top. And if that is the case, it's going to work. If maybe in 2 out of 4 locations or 2 out of 5 locations, it's a yes, but in 3 of 5, it's no, because those 2 locations are closer by, then see if those 2 locations already generate some organic leads. And then if yes, then throw on the ads to the other 3 locations. Does that make sense? Because then you know your funnel's working, and then you can just quickly increase your exposure. You don't need to wait for like half a year or months or 12 months or however long it takes in your market to do the local SEO optimization, right? You can just shortcut it. Once you know your funnel works and you have budget, ads, basically. So make sure your pathways are complete, test your journeys, test your phone calls, test your forms, launch, and get leads. And this should work straight away. If you run ads and you get less or fewer than 4 leads, troubleshoot. And when I say leads, I mean real business inquiries about your MSP's services. When you get a lead, make sure everything in your MSP makes noise. So if you get a form filled in, your phone rings and you get a text message, and basically the alarms go like everywhere, because you want to respond to leads in 5 minutes. This will double your conversion rate. Everyone who we work with who converts at 40% plus, they respond within 5 or 10 minutes. And it's like you can just walk out of a meeting and just write a quick email or basically, ideally, just give them a call back straight away. There's no reason why the rest of your colleagues cannot wait a little bit. Creation of your moat. We're really starting to get to the end here, guys. I hope you're still engaged with me. So Google Maps is a cornerstone of this strategy, as it is for every local service business, right? It should come as no surprise. Now, when you are going to do your own research and you're going to look at all the other MSPs in your market, then you might find that some of them look great and have lots of reviews, and you're like, wow, this is intimidating. I'm not sure if I can catch up to these guys. That is their moat, right? That is their protection mechanism. They are far ahead of you. What you want to do is you want to do that too. You want to keep up with them, even surpass them, and you want to have that same threatening appearance to everyone who's going to try to do the same. Because you're not going to, you build your MSP, you need to grow it for your family, for your friends, for your employees. This is not the time to get intimidated by what other MSPs have done, right? You're here, you're going to come kick some ass, you now have the roadmap, and that means that you will do this, not only that, but then make your moat so that customers will keep coming to you and other MSPs kind of like seem scared to try and catch up with you. Does that make sense? Also, remember that how you make your funnel will depend on your ideal client. And your ideal client might feel very attracted to you, but not to any of these competitors that are further ahead of you. If those MSPs are tiny or huge and you're the opposite, then that prospect would not take them into consideration and would just go to you. Does that make sense? So there is space for more than one MSP in the market. In fact, there's space for a handful or 2 that do insanely well. Okay? Scaling. You have your moats. Now you just need to maintain your website, your local SEO, and your advertising campaigns. You want to make them more efficient, and you want to make sure that ideally over time you start throwing in more advertising budget and stuff like that. If you're not getting 5 to 10 qualified leads per market that you're in per month, then you can probably squeeze more out of your market by increasing your exposure and working on your offer or your brand. But if you are hitting that number, you're like, this is great, and I have my moat, then you can open up a Google Business profile in another market because you already did 90% of the work, and now you can just make a moat there around the Google Business profile. And that's it. That's how you get 5 to 15 sales qualified inbound leads upon launch of the funnel. And it's pretty straightforward. You just go through it. It's very methodological, if that's correct or not. But that's how you do it. It's very research-based. And I wish you best of luck with this. Take care, and I hope you make it. Bye.